Startling. Following the devastating loss to Amanda Anisimova, Alex Eala recently spoke out, and the tennis community was completely taken aback by her heartfelt words. When her conqueror calls a 21-year-old Filipino who had lost a match loved and a fighter, she reacts in a way that no one anticipated. This is not how everybody anticipated it would end. A winning run of 5 games against opponents ranked in the top 10 ended in the most agonizing way imaginable. A 2-0 advantage that vanished in the last set. Nevertheless, the Filipina superstar's message is about progress, thankfulness, and the lesson she will take to the U.S. Open rather than defeat. On a muggy Ohio night, the magic that had propelled Alex Eala to 5 straight wins over the greatest players in the world finally ran out. And it ended in the most tragic way. At the Lindner Family Tennis Center, the match went far past midnight. After 2 hours and 28 minutes of tough, unrelenting tennis, the Filipino supporters roared after the first set victory. A 2-0 lead in the final set that appeared to portend another historic upset, followed by a collapse that saddened thousands of Filipino supporters. Eala lost to American seed Amanda Anisimova 6-4, 4-6, 2-6, ending her 5-match winning streak against top 10 opponents. The Filipina had momentum going into the match despite being ranked 17th in the $7.4 million tournament. She had just triumphed handily over Elena Gabriela Ruiz, a retaliatory victory that elevated her to a career-high world number 18 ranking. This season alone, she had already defeated 7 of the top 10 players. And her army of Filipino supporters was prepared to cheer her on to triumph. Anisimova, however, had different ideas. The 24-year-old American, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist who advanced to the U.S. Open and Wimbledon finals in 2025, had prepared herself for this precise occasion. She was aware that the audience would not support her. She was aware of Eala's fighting spirit. She was aware that she needed to find a solution. The first set, which lasted 67 minutes, was mostly under Eala's control. With 13 deuces and a duration of 20 minutes and 11 seconds, the 5th game became a marathon service duel. Anisimova had 8 chances to score, but Eala consistently withstood the pressure. She won the set 6-4 after breaking Anisimova in the 10th game. The audience erupted. The flags of the Philippines waved. It seemed as though the magic might last for a while. However, the second set presented an alternative narrative. Anisimova took the first break of the set to take a 4-3 lead after both players maintained service throughout the first 6 games. In the 8th game, the American secured the break this time. The former world number 3 forced the match to a decider after the lone break proved to be the difference. Eala had an outstanding start to the 3rd set, breaking to take a 2-0 lead after holding serve in the first game. Anisimova answered with lethal efficiency, but the Filipina had done it before, turning early leads into victory against the greatest in the world. The pivotal moment occurred in the 5th game of the 3rd set, when Anisimova took a 3-2 lead after Eala looked ready to reclaim control after taking a 40-15 lead. However, Eala lost the next 4 points. Anisimova dominated the remainder of the match, even shutting out Eala. The final score, 6-4, 4-6, 2-6, prevented Eala from defeating a top 10 opponent for the 10th time in her career. And the hope of another upset in the top 10 vanished as Eala left the court. The stadium was filled with Filipino supporters, but they stopped talking. Their faces showed how heartbroken they were. However, this was not the end. The next chapter was just getting started. And Eala's emotional reaction to the loss would soon show the real nature of a champion who doesn't give up. There was an overwhelming quiet. The tennis world waited for hours following the match. They awaited a declaration. Anything that would shed light on Alex Eala's thoughts following the most devastating loss of her breakthrough season. A post, a comment, anything. Then she said something. In the immediate wake of the game, Eala had been essentially ignored. In startled silence, the Filipino spectators who had crowded the Lindner Family Tennis Center filed out. The joyfully waving Philippine flags were being packed up. And the Filipina superstar, who had won over millions of fans, was grieving over a defeat that had prevented her from defeating a top 10 opponent for the 10th time in her career. When she eventually spoke, nobody anticipated what she would say. The weariness that had been accumulating for weeks was not blamed, nor was there any resentment or justifications. There was grace instead. There was thankfulness and a silent resolve that made clear why she had become her nation's most adored athlete. Eala reflected on her path during the event, saying, "I know also that I wouldn't be having these experiences if I didn't do all the work that I did beforehand. I am aware that if I don't keep up that work, I won't continue to experience it." Spoken before to the game, those statements now had additional significance. Losses were a necessary part of the road, she realized. She was aware that one setback did not define her career and that learning from Cincinnati would only make her more resilient. Although the defeat against Anisimova was agonizing, there was still hope. Eala and the millions of people who follow her were reminded by this chapter and moment that greatness is not determined by a single match. It is characterized by the struggle, the trip, and the perseverance. She had stated, "I think it's just the level that I play that matters. Did I deliver the level I intended to deliver? Therefore, even if it wasn't a great week, I wouldn't say it was successful if I lost the first round, but it was a really fantastic match." Resilience was the message that surfaced once the emotional quiet was broken. Although Eala had lost, she had not been vanquished. The tennis community anticipated the standard post-match platitudes from Amanda Anisimova as she took the microphone following her victory. Instead, they received a much more illuminating admission that clarified why Alex Eala had emerged as the WTA Tour's most talked-about player. In the post-game on-court interview, Anisimova stated, "I knew it was going to be a really tough match because I know Alex is such a great player and such a fighter." The American's remarks were in homage, acknowledging that the 21-year-old Filipina had pushed her to the brink, and they had no trace of conceit. Eala received sincere and heartfelt praise from Anisimova. She went on, "I'm really proud of this performance for being able to find a way and kind of push myself there in the middle of the match. Indeed, I'm quite pleased with how I was able to discover my tennis skills and begin competing." The tennis world was genuinely shocked by the following portion of Anisimova's statement, even though it was a very difficult match and she deserves praise. "I know how much Alex is adored, and for good reason, so I sincerely appreciate the support I received tonight," she stated. Neither she nor the tennis establishment could have imagined the weight of those statements. When a two-time Grand Slam finalist and ranked 10th in the world admits that a player is, fans adore it for good reason. It validates what everyone has seen all year. The Eala effect is not merely genuine. Opponents are forced to acknowledge it because of its potency. Anisimova even included a little comedy to highlight how exhausting the fight had been. The audience laughed as she remarked, "But I really appreciated it because I felt like I needed a pick-me-up in this match because it's past my bedtime." At the Lindner Family Tennis Center, the match went long past midnight. After 2 hours and 28 minutes of intense tennis, Eala won the first set. Anisimova herself could not believe she had survived the collapse that followed a 2-0 lead in the decisive set that appeared to portend another historic shock. Anisimova gained momentum after defeating Eala before facing Wimbledon winner Linda Noskova in the round of 16. However, her mind continued to focus on the opponent she had just defeated. Anisimova's confession went viral due to what she stated about Eala rather than what she said about herself. "I am aware of Alex's immense popularity, and for good cause." The words paid homage to all that Eala stands for. A young woman who has won over millions of hearts, a fighter who never gives up, and a player who challenges the greatest in the world. The world of tennis is observing. Alex Eala's quest is far from over, and the Filipinos are shouting. With a 2-0 lead in the last set eroding, the loss to Amanda Anisimova was the kind of setback that could have crushed a lesser player. A winning run of 5 games against opponents ranked in the top 10 came to an abrupt end. In a muggy Ohio night that lasted far past midnight, the hopes of winning a 10th career game against a player ranked in the top 10 vanished. However, Alex Eala is not a subpar athlete. She is a fighter. She went from being a teenager who struggled to qualify for Grand Slams to a world number 18 who is respected and feared by the sports elite thanks to the warrior attitude that characterizes her career. Anisimova herself recognized that spirit of perseverance. After the game, the American remarked, "I know Alex is such a great player and such a fighter." These weren't only polite remarks made after a game. They were an acknowledgement of all that Eala stands for. A player who challenges the world's greatest players and never gives up. Who has made a career out of perseverance. The 5th game of the 3rd set was the match's pivotal moment. In the decisive set, Eala had just broken Anisimova to take a 2-0 lead. After establishing a 40-15 lead, she looked ready to reclaim the lead, but she lost the next 4 points, giving Anisimov a 3-2 lead. The American won the following 6 games to complete the triumph, cruising the remainder of the way. Thousands of Filipino fans were devastated by the fall. However, it was also a time that made clear why Eala has gained such popularity. She displayed the tenacity that has characterized her entire career, even in defeat. She did not give up. She didn't offer any justifications. Up until the very end, she persisted in fighting, pushing, and believing. Eala is now 7-3 this season and 9-5 overall versus opponents ranked in the top 10. She has defeated Jessica Pegula, Elena Rybakina, Coco Gauff, Iga Swiatek, Alina Svitolina, and others. She has already demonstrated that she is capable of competing with and outperforming the world's top players. Anisimova's defeat was a setback, but setbacks are teachings rather than losses. Additionally, Eala has always been a player who becomes stronger from hardship, learns from her mistakes, and utilizes every setback as motivation for future successes. The Filipino spectators who had crowded the stadium cheered her off the court at the Lindner Family Tennis Center. They were aware of her prior achievements. They were aware of her potential. They also understood that this loss was only one part of the story, not its conclusion. After Alex Eala's devastating defeat to Amanda Anisimova at the Cincinnati Open, we arrive at the issue that the tennis community is asking itself. How will the Filipina phenomenon recover from the most agonizing setback of her breakthrough season, and what does this loss indicate for her chances of winning the US Open? The response is more positive than the score may indicate. Because even though Eala's 5-game winning run against opponents ranked in the top 10 may have come to an end in Cincinnati, the overall picture is still incredibly promising. The 21-year-old Filipina has already demonstrated that she is one of the best in the sport. This season alone, she has defeated 7 of the top 10 players. Her first WTA Tour Championship has been won. She has advanced to the 4th round of Wimbledon while bearing the burden of an entire country. Shoulders. The emphasis now turns to Flushing Meadows. The Tia Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York will host the US Open starting on August 30th. For the first time in her career, Eala is anticipated to receive a seeding in the women's singles draw, demonstrating how far she has gone in just 1 year. She was the first Filipino to win a Grand Slam match at Flushing Meadows during the Open era last year. She comes back this year with a career-high ranking and the assurance that she can defeat anyone in the draw. The hard court swing in North America has been amazing. Eala became a serious contender during her remarkable title run in Washington, where she overcame world number 3 Jessica Pegula in the championship match. Her success was no accident, as evidenced by her round of 16 result in Toronto and her 3rd round performance in Cincinnati, where she challenged a 2-time Grand Slam finalist. She will only grow stronger as a result of Cincinnati's teachings. Anisimova herself recognized the significance of Eala. After the game, the American remarked, "I know how loved Alex is, and for good reason." Those are powerful words. The statement made by a world number 10 and 2-time Grand Slam finalist is proof that the Eala effect exists and will only get stronger. Eala will take part in a few of events before to the US Open. Felix Auger-Aliassime, ranked 4th in the world, H.